Special Unit 669 is operating non-stop since the beginning of the war. They have already evacuated more than 1,000 wounded from the depths of the Strip through complex operations as they risk their own lives. N12 brings us a rare glimpse.
God, I can't believe it. Loading on the left.
There are 2 seriously injured people on the way.
You realize that it doesn't matter how many decisions you have to make. What matters is how quickly it gets done.
There's a medical professional here for you.
How can I help? Come on, hurry up. Let's go. 1 stretcher.
3 injured people for urgent evacuation.
We're flying in high speed, close to buildings. Navigation is very challenging.
Pick him up. Pick him. Go, go, go. 2 wounded on stretchers are coming your way.
Get as much details as possible so we can meet the task. Team up with the forces on the ground and bring the injured to a hospital ASAP.
Doors are closed. You're clear. Everybody's in. Take off. Go, go, go.
This is how the dramatic moments in the depths of the Strip look like. Helicopters land under fire to evacuate the wounded just seconds on the ground. They load up and get out quickly before they endanger themselves.
There he is. The door is closed. Need to go.
A rare glimpse to the treatment and evacuation process that leads from the grounds to the hospital, a chain of operations that begins with the Air Force Rescue Unit, which for the first time in this war are fighting with the ground forces through the transportation unit fighters who evacuate in designated vehicles to the rescue helicopters. The mission is to get from the field, no matter where, to the operating table in the center of the country in less than an hour from the moment of injury.
We've created medical intervention teams that can reach the field endpoints and connect between wounded evacuation areas. This way, our forces and our troops speak the same language and act very quickly, as we know the healthcare provided to the entire evacuation chain is excellent.
We're actively moving with the division in order to figure out where is the most critical area. That is where we expect there to be more friction, where we can get to the injured faster and analyze the evacuation strategy.
Guys, do an update. We're reporting 2 seriously injured people to our vehicles.
One more.
Here we can see fighters from the transportation unit as they reach the wounded. The medical staff have already begun initial treatment at the field. This happened in Jabalia during the first week of combat.
Go to the other side. Come here. Come here. We arrive and see a wounded man who looks very bad, has impaired consciousness, taking his last breath.
As they drive to the helipad, the doctor injects him with a blood unit, a treatment method that hasn't been tried before and makes all the difference.
We finish 2 pressure units of blood and the man wakes up.
How are you? Tell me a bit.
Pretty bummed, actually. Any pain?
My right side is killing me.
He starts telling us it hurts. He literally came back to life. It's like you can actually see the light in his eyes. And just like that, we put him on the helicopter.
We have 2 wounded. 1 is unconscious with a hole in his shoulder. Received blood. The second wounded is conscious, stable, with shrapnel in his limbs.
What procedures can you perform during the flight on the way to the hospital?
It depends on the condition of the injured, but basically we have everything here. We have equipment for complex procedures, the kind that if we make the decision to go through with, it's probably because the injured person will not survive until we get to the hospital.
Happened?
Of course, many times.
You mean when the condition of the injured obligates you to operate on them during the helicopter flight?
That's right.
Once a 669 fighter sets out on a mission, he doesn't know the wounded yet. He knows nothing about him. What's his name? But for him at that moment, that person has to be the most precious human being in the world.
It is a war with many injured and with many seriously wounded around the clock. 669 evacuated more than 1,000 wounded from Gaza, 120 of them from the heart of the Strip, where every minute counts.
You basically enter an event that isn't entirely clear. That means you don't actually know what happened there, or whether it was a bomb or a shooting or maybe a mortar or a missile. Just before you instinctively run to the wounded, you have to make sure that you are not making this event even more complex. That means you're not entering a trapped house, that you're not being ambushed.
I can tell you about the incident that happened last week with the truck that exploded. As we reached the territory, there was already a helicopter about to enter.
3 injured people that we identify, one of which
gone through a life-saving process. Once we evacuated him, we got 2 more.
One of them was really a matey. You evacuated
I
him?
wasn't entirely sure it was him.
At that moment, you didn't know it was actually him.
At that moment, I didn't know it was him.
And once you realize,
I was glad that he'll be able to sing once again.
We had an incident not long ago in the north part of the Strip. Extremely difficult with 2 fatalities. And the other 2 came out with relatively minor injuries. And then one of them asks, what about the others? And he's hearing reports of possible fatalities.
And what do you answer him?
You say they were very badly injured and we're still trying to save their lives. You need to understand we are the first people they get to see, the ones that hold their hand, calm them, and say, don't worry, you're on your way to a hospital.
And there are incidents like this of multiple casualties. Paratroopers forced the stepped-on explosives with 5 dead and 8 wounded. And the dramatic decision to let a C-Stallion chopper in, despite of the daylight, simply because there is no other way.
There was a major event involving 2 units of special military forces, and I had to make one of the most complex decisions I've ever had during this war. We arrive and land in order to evacuate soldiers, and I see 4 soldiers running towards us with a stretcher. One of them grabs me by the shoulder and says, we have a wounded here. It's my cousin. Please take care of him. Keep him alive, or something like that. Merely 10 seconds after, the doctor comes to me and says, the wounded soldier is dead, and now I have to decide what to do. Do I leave him on the helicopter at the expense of other wounded, or do I drop him off when his cousin is out there and has to keep fighting without knowing he is dead? I decide to take him, but not before I validate several things in order to make this impossible decision.
We had a wounded soldier who was a leg amputee. And from the moment we began his evacuation, through the drive to the helicopter, he just grabbed one of the fighter's hand and just didn't let go. Like this, you need to understand it's about much more than technical work and making decisions. It's also about taking a second and being sensitive to the situation and understanding for a moment what the guys are experiencing in all of this.
And here is Ben Shelley, may he rest in peace. Just moments before he died, the commander of the unit in charge of directing wounded people to the helicopter. This unit lost 4 fighters in a rescue and evacuation mission under fire.
Major Ben Shelley, Sergeant Major Rumhecht, Lieutenant Shayayali, Lieutenant Nathaniel Menchem Eitan. May they rest in peace.
Here they are fighting together with the ground forces in Sajea, a medical force alongside the unit's medical teams as they provide initial response and guide them to the evacuation forces. In one incident, while evacuating, the APC they were in was hit by an anti-tank missile.
I got it.
They were not injured and continued driving, attending to the wounded in the vehicle all the way to the evacuation helicopter.
There are some events that can even make you smile, you know, you attend the wounded, apply tourniquets, amputations, and at the end all he wants is a cigarette. It evokes some kind of optimism within the hardships of it all.
by the way, did you allow him to smoke?
Of course I did.
Not exactly doctor's orders.
There was a wounded soldier that told me, take my picture, you know, I want one with the V for victory.
So did you?
Yeah, I took the picture.
Such a rescue is a complex operation, covering fighter jets,
Get closer to the position. Dust on the smoke.
masking of artillery shells followed by a quick entry. If you stay over a minute on the ground, you could get hurt.
I received the condition of the wounded. You guys are ready for entry.
We're talking about a super fast entry, very close to buildings in an urban area. The navigation is very challenging, and there's a feeling like a sense of readiness and alertness, as if your finger is ready to maneuver and react to a threat at all times. And it happens in very short periods of time. There is someone on the ground whose only chance of survival, of staying alive after what he's been through at the battlefield, is this rescue chopper. It's the 669 doctors who are in it, and the operative chain that will get him to the hospital as quickly as possible.
Come on, come on, come on, come on, north. Yes, I'm with him. To the left, man. Lift your foot to the left.
Hundreds of soldiers and reserve fighters operate this way ever since October 7th. This is a lesson from previous operations that was developed into a different evacuation method, lowering the percentage of the soldier mortality rate dramatically, from 15% in the Second Lebanon War to less than 7% in this one.
The 4th is on a stretcher inside. Go to the door, we're done, let's go.
And facing the fact that they meet serious and complex injuries, this is also a preserving treatment for the resilience of the unit fighters themselves.
There are psychologists in the unit who talk to us about it on a regular basis. The commanders are also being advised to be more aware that this is a matter of high importance.
Sometimes we get into these situations that even though we've done everything we could, still we'll find ourselves in incidents with fatalities. A lot of times, the introspection begins once you land. Did I give it my all? Was I in sync enough? Was there anything else I could have done? Could I achieve a different result? This reckoning is very difficult to go through.
Moving on the left, you're clear.
Joining forces both on the ground and in the air in order to save lives, knowing this won't end anytime soon.
I remember an incident where we evacuated a wounded man with a splinter. It was an urgent injury, but he was conscious, and something amazing happened in the helicopter. I suddenly see the doctor holding his hand. I see one of the fighters taking the other hand, and they smile. They tell him to his ear, listen, we love you, and we're getting you to a hospital. And I believe that what he got in that exact moment is nothing less than medical care.